And part of my podcast, the reason why I know I talk about technical stuff, and it might not seem like the most interesting most of the time. This is more of an emotional episode, but the reason I do is because I think I've seen enough times with amongst friends, classmates, fellow storytellers. There's so many misconceptions amongst storytellers, especially these young people today. There's so many misconceptions about what matters in a movie. And I'm like, I feel like I studied from my masters, Guillermo del Toro, Christopher Nolan, some of Danny Boyle's work, and the most important thing is I watch their commentaries. I don't just watch the movie and sit there with my opinion and think my opinion matters. I watch the commentary. I watch the interview. What the fuck were they thinking when they made that? And although I don't have any of that to talk about for this particular podcast, what I find most important for me is that I left this movie emotionally affected. I related to what the characters were going through. And I think that's what movies are really all about. You know what I mean? I think, again, I always bring up Spider-Man or Star Wars, but, what is Spider-Man going through? He's bullied, he's ostracized, he's mistreated by society, and it makes him a selfish person. And the moment he becomes selfish, the consequence is that his uncle dies. And then he realizes being selfish is no good. Being other people being selfish made him feel bad, and then he became selfish, and then he had much higher consequences than just making someone feel bad. His uncle died. Or you look at Star Wars, and it's really a family drama about an abusive father who's abusing his children and their friends. And not only that, when before they were even born, he had strangled his mother. He had strangled the mother of his children while they were still in her womb. He had ostracized himself from his own friends because of his misconceptions and because he couldn't let go of things. You look at these stories, the reason they have any resonance at all is because they're about people and the mistakes that people make when they're passionate about something or when they won't listen. There's the character, and whatever the lesson the character goes through is the theme of the story. And so that's what matters. If you're a storyteller, that's what matters. The theme of your story. What's the story about? That theme is why your character behaves the way they do, because at the end the audience has to have that resonant experience of, okay, I shouldn't judge people. You know what I mean? I think that's when you watch American History X, talk about racism, that movie starts off with Edward Norton being the most despicable, awful human being possible, where he literally skull stomps another man because he's black. And throughout the story, spoilers for American History X. Spoilers for American History X. Throughout the story, you see his younger brother, played by Edward Furlong, is becoming influenced by this very behavior, even though he's in prison. Even though Edward Norton's character is in prison for doing the same thing. And he's going the same way. He's going to go the same exact way as his brother. And over the course of the story, while in prison, the only person who really looks out and cares about Edward Norton are the other black characters. He makes a black friend in prison, and that guy looks out for him and keeps the black gang from doing anything to him. And his principal, who's been through watching all this happen in his own life, both the racism and seeing the consequences of all the violence. And it's, that perspective that makes, by the end of the movie, Edward Norton realize, shit, all this judgment and all this hate and all this violence didn't actually solve any of my problems, which is what the principal is there to teach him. and that's powerful. It's really about respecting humanity. You look at Terminator, and also he needs to save his younger brother. He needs to get his younger brother out of this life before the same thing happens to him. And you look at Terminator 2. Even though, yes, a future robot comes back and we repeat the plot of but it's not the same plot or story or even the same meaning of the first movie. You look at Terminator 2, and it's about a mother who is in a crazy hospital. She's estranged from her son. All her son wants, young Edward Furlong wants, is for her mom to acknowledge him and to love him and to care about him as a mother. But she's so psychotically obsessed with him being a future leader that she can't even almost see him as a son. She just sees him as the object that she must protect. And it takes the entire movie of watching the Terminator that had tried to kill her before, now reprogrammed, watching him being a almost perfect dad and realizing, oh shit, this Terminator's a better parent than I am. Well, I better go kill Miles Dyson. And we see how that goes. But by the end of the movie, she finally hugs him and loves him. Spoilers for Terminator 2. All these movies are about humanity. They're all about us learning something about ourselves or about sort of the way people treat each other. And the point is that we should, as humanity, break down these barriers between us, whether it's judgment, whether it's, oh, they don't see my value, Anakin Skywalker. Well, okay, just, let it go. It doesn't mean that you don't have value, but, figure something out. Your violence is not going to change their opinion or solve the situation. It's only going to make things worse. Hating each other because of the color of our skin, it's not going to do anything for you, even though you think it will. In the short term, it might seem like it does, but it doesn't really do anything for you. Being selfish and greedy, and because that's how other people were toward you, it's not going to solve your problems. It's going to add to your problems. All of these stories have this through line that humanity is more complicated than the expectations we have about ourselves and about other people. And humanity, most importantly, is just about playing the ball where it lies and respecting our differences and trying to help each other. There's a beautiful thing when I was still watching Fear the Walking Dead. Season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead, I think, is the best zombie show ever by itself. I think within that season we have Morgan and all the characters from the show that had already existed because Morgan was part of The Walking Dead. But I think the most beautiful thing when it comes to Fear the Walking Dead is that it's all about how each one of us has to help the other if we all want to survive. And that's something that I forget his name. He was on Galaxy Quest. He was fantastic. But in real life, he was in a situation that got him in a wheelchair, and they have him in the wheelchair on the show, and it comes up both on the show Fear the Walking Dead season 4 and on The Talking Dead when he's being interviewed by Chris Hardwick about it. And the thing is, the message of that particular season and the whole message that he had himself, it's like, I didn't survive on my own. People helped me. You know what I mean? And even Arnold Schwarzenegger, with his whole reemergence with his new book and really pushing society to working out, he scoffs at people calling him a self-made man. He's like, I didn't do this myself. When I was bodybuilding and I was broke, other bodybuilders would give me food. And when I was trying to act, other people would give me tips and teach me how to be better. And you know what I mean? It's just the only way any of us gets anywhere is because we all have to help each other. You know, and this is a philosophy I've always had, that helping other people is an important thing. Not that I've helped everyone I've crossed, but I have tried to be a helpful person in my life. And what I think is so beautiful about, to bring this all back, A Quiet Place Day One, it's all about that same humanity, and it's all about how, for us to make it, we have to stick together.